So today we're going to talk about the circulatory system. We've talked about a couple of the parts of the cell, one being the cell membrane that allows things in and out, but there are other parts in human bodies and multicellular organisms that help to transport as well, and that would be the circulatory system. It's a transport system. It helps to move nutrients, gases, wastes, and other products throughout the body. The transport system or circulatory system in the human body is really made up of three main things: the heart, the blood, and blood vessels. Blood can be broken down into several parts as well. The plasma, which is a liquid for transport, primarily made up of water. Red blood cells, which many of you have heard of before. Their primary job is to transport oxygen using a special protein called hemoglobin, which helps to bind to the oxygen molecules to transport them around the body to the cells. It also will bind with the carbon dioxide to bring it back in order to get rid of it in the lungs. We also have white blood cells. Really, these are part of what we call our immune response to help fight off foreign invaders and disease. The last part of the blood are the platelets. These really aren't whole cells, but they're parts of cells that are used in clotting when we have some sort of an injury and we're starting to lose blood. One question that some of us may ask is, how is it that our blood actually clots? Why don't we just keep bleeding? Well, it's actually a series of reactions controlled by enzymes. This is another way that enzymes are very important in our body because it helps to control and regulate this reaction. Remember though, if one of these enzymes is damaged or missing, this entire reaction can fall apart. This is what happens with somebody that has a genetic disorder called hemophilia. Their blood actually does not clot properly. They could bleed to death. Usually they're missing at least one of the enzymes, or one of those enzymes has a deformity in them, so it doesn't work. So there are three main steps in terms of forming a clot. The first thing that happens is you injure a part of your body. This causes something called thromboplastin to be released. Once that thromboplastin is released, it causes something called prothrombin to form into thrombin eventually, which is an enzyme. There's that enzyme part. Once that happens, we have fibrinogen come into play. And the thrombin, the enzyme, is going to convert fibrinogen into fibrin. And fibrin is really our net. It's kind of like a mesh that you would put over the clot or over the injury in order to stop more blood and red blood cells and everything else from coming out. So what happens here is the platelets and the red blood cells get caught in this fibrin net in order to form the clot. So if we were to think of a blood vessel that had some sort of an injury, let's say you cut yourself with a knife. Once we have this blood vessel wall get injured, it sends signals to the body in order to help the clotting process to start. You can see the red blood cells here. You can see the green platelets that start to clump together. And then eventually you see this fibrin net, which helps to catch everything and stop it from getting out of the body. Eventually that's going to form your scab and heal over. Well, we know that everything needs to get transported around the body. But how do they do it? Well, it gets transported through blood vessels, a series of different types of tubes. We have three main types of blood vessels in our body: arteries, veins, and capillaries. I know many of you have heard of them before, but maybe you don't know their specific functions. In terms of arteries, they carry blood away from the heart. I usually try to remember the